You know, I classify difficult games into three different categories. They're either hard because they're designed that way, they're hard because they're designed poorly, or they're hard because as a kid, they kicked my ass. And well, Little Nemo falls into the latter category. See, if you're a platforming veteran, Little Nemo isn't the most difficult game in the world, but as a kid, this game kicked my ass. So we're going to eat our cereal, watch our Saturday morning cartoons, and we're going to play Little Nemo the Dream Master. Until we win. Some people might complain that this game isn't difficult, and to a point, they're right. Little Nemo isn't some legendarily difficult game that's impossible to beat. This is one of those games that really haunts childhood more than adulthood. But why? I can attest that as a kid, my platforming skills were far and away much more honed than they are today, and yet as a kid, Little Nemo gave me fits, whereas as an adult, this game was actually relatively easy to beat. Relative to, say, Battletoads. Why does this game seem so much easier now than when I was a child? Well, I think it has to do with being able to wrap my head around the game more easily. You see, back in the day, we were faced with standard platformers. You jump, you go right, and you don't get dead. Little Nemo is a bit different. Sure, you jump around to avoid enemies, and you generally go right to complete the stage, but this game is much more non-linear. Throughout each level, you have to find several keys to unlock the door at the end of each stage. Sometimes you only need 5, sometimes you need 7. You won't find the keys laying around right in front of you either, well, except for one level, so you do generally have to go exploring. And this is what made Nemo hard as a kid, but easier to deal with as an adult. Finding the keys was a chore, and exploring all the various locations that they could be in took time, effort, and a lot of thinking outside the box. Nowadays, it's very common for games to have you jump down a hole or swim through water, but back in the day, well, it wasn't very common. Little Nemo broke the mold by having you swim, jump down pits, dig through earth, and even fly, and that took a bit more brain work than what we were used to. So the difficulty, when revisited, is certainly reduced, but that doesn't mean it ain't hard. In fact, there are quite a few things that make this game difficult. For example, you've got 3 bars of health. Now this can increase depending on which animal form you take, but when you're just Little Nemo, you're stuck at 3 bars. The Floafies are a pain in the ass. I don't care who you are. Constantly respawning enemies that do nothing but hunt you down and try to destroy you are a pain to deal with. You don't jump as high as you think you do. Everything in this game is located within a bounding hitbox, and even if your legs never touch the enemies, your hitbox will. So jumping over some enemies can seem possible, but it's really not. You know that temporary invincibility you get after being hit in most games? You can pretty much kiss that goodbye. While it prevents you from being killed by the same monster in one hit, it doesn't last long, only about a second, and it doesn't work against spikes. So, even if you get hit by a monster, if you get hit by the instant death spikes, you're dead. And that really sucks when you're trying to avoid spikes that are above you and you get hit, because getting hit sends you flying up in the air. Each form has some kind of weakness to offset its abilities. For example, the frog is very slow but can jump really high. While this does tend to balance out the gameplay, it'll make you dead once in a while. Finally, the major reason this game is difficult is that much like other great games, it literally shits all over itself in the last act. By comparison, in Thief, you go from a sneak-em-up style of gameplay right up until the last level, where it turns into an action-adventure race against the clock. Little Nemo does something similar. Instead of being an overglorified game of hide-and-seek, the last level is a series of difficult platforming combined with several boss battles, all using a brand spanking new mechanic. It's not all bad, though. After all, I wouldn't have fond memories of this game if it wasn't at least somewhat decent. The transformation mechanic is, quite frankly, downright fun. I mean, admit it, as a kid, who didn't want to pretend to be a bee, a frog, or riding a mouse while whacking at walls with a mallet? Anyway, the mechanic is very solid, if a bit rudimentary. Now, there is a serious lack of puzzle solving here. After all, the biggest puzzle I faced was turning into a hermit crab and digging through the sand, so you're gonna get through the game without scratching your head. The controls are awesome, but then again, it's a Capcom NES game, so what did you expect? The length of the game is just right. Not so long that it wears out its welcome, but not so short that you feel ripped off. The levels themselves are colorful, creative, and really brings to life a little boy's imagination. Really, the only thing that's missing is some kind of level where Nemo can't touch the floor because it's made of lava. With all of that being said, you probably want to know how to beat this game, right? Well, let's take a look at level 1. The Mushroom Forest is fairly easy if you know what you're doing. The keys are all located in easy to get to spots, save for the 2 on top of large mushrooms. All you need to do is get the frog to jump up to them. Beyond that, this level doesn't offer too much in the way of a challenge. Avoid jumping or walking into enemies and spikes, you should be okay. There are a total of 6 keys in this level, and you'll make use of the frog, the mole, and the lizard to get to them. You can use the frog to jump to higher ground, and the mole is used for digging. If you're creative, you can dig your way down to a tunnel and grab a 1-up and switch to the lizard, who can climb up the sides of walls. Once you do get the lizard, exit the cave and head down the mushroom, then head back into the frog. Use that to get across the waterfall, head to the right, and end the level. Stage 2, the Flower Garden, has 6 keys, 2 new animal friends, and a boatload of enemies. You'll get to ride the gorilla and become a bee in this stage. The gorilla is essentially a controllable Donkey Kong that can punch, and he can also climb the sides of trees. The bee lets you fly for a short amount of time and shoot stingers out of your ass. When you start this level, you'll be told to find the lizard. To get to him, simply jump into the water, yes, you can swim in this game, and dive down. You don't have to worry about running out of air. Head down and you'll run into the lizard, then exit right. Keep going, avoiding a bunch of worms, then go ride the Kong, who can climb the tree. Climbing the tree is tough, not because the controls are bad, but the damn floafies in your way are a pain in the ass. The best way to get around them is to trick them into attacking you far away from the tree. As you climb, stand on each branch and wait for the floaty thing to appear. Head to the far side of the branch and wait for him to stop zigzagging, then quickly make your way back to the tree and climb up. Once you get the hang of it, you should be able to get to the lizard without taking any damage. Get on the lizard, grab the key, and head down. From here, head left to the narrow passage you avoided earlier, then go in it. Get on the lizard, grab the key, and head down. From here, head left to the narrow passage you avoided earlier, and then go in it. You'll have to move past the instant death spikes carefully in order to get to the bee. Avoid the spikes, ditch the lizard, and hop into the bee's mouth. You'll have to be careful here. Fly too long, and you'll simply fall to your death. Fly too high, and you'll go headfirst into spikes. My strategy is simple. Fly up and grab the key, then fly back down to your platform. Once you land, your ability to fly will be fully recharged, and you can simply fly out of the pit. Once you're out of there, you'll have to fly around a bit to find another key. Get out of the bee's mouth, drop into the water, and remember bees don't like water, and swim around. From here, the rest of the level is fairly straightforward. Swim and run to the right until you make your way to yet another water hole. You'll notice a lizard right next to it, but you can't quite reach it. All you need to do is swim down and around to get to the other side. Jump out of the water, grab the lizard. Head to the right, climb the tree with your lizard, and grab the final key, make your way to the exit. Level 3, the House of Toys, haunted my childhood. This level is just downright sadistic. Finding the keys in this level isn't too difficult. They're all easy to spot and to get to. What's difficult is just surviving until the end. This is one of those auto-scrolling levels, but it's so incredibly cheap you'll throw your controller in frustration. Now, you need to collect at least 6 keys to open the door. If you don't get enough keys, you'll go back to the beginning of the stage. So, start off by jumping up and getting around the toy house, then get on the train of death. You're gonna die. A lot. There are 3 main enemies on this level: toy planes, balloons, and flying squirrels. The planes will try to kamikaze bomb you. The best way to avoid them is to run forward and then run back away from them as they dive bomb you. The balloons will try to drop bombs on you. The best way to avoid them is to stay in front of the balloons. Otherwise, they drop 2 bombs before they move on, and chances are the second one's gonna hit you. The flying squirrels are placed in exactly the wrong locations, right by the instant death spikes. You'll have to run up close to them to get them to fly at you, then jump over them before you run into the instant death spikes. Beyond that, this level is all about how you react. If your platforming skills are rusty, you're screwed. Stage 4, the Night Seed. It only has 5 keys, but it will introduce you to 2 new animal friends, the Flounder and the Hermit Crab. The Flounder doesn't really do anything outside of swimming really fast and having 5 life bars. The Hermit Crab, on the other hand, digs into the dirt, kind of like an underwater mole. Most of this level takes place underwater and under the water. All you really need to do in this level is jump in the water and start swimming. When you get to the Hermit Crab, transform into him and head to the right. Once you reach the ship, start digging. You need to dig under and around it to get to the next part. After you get past the ship, ditch the crab and get the flounder. Now you'll have to swim through several passageways to find the keys you need. It's not a tough section, so you shouldn't have any problems finding the keys. Just remember that everything underwater moves fast, so you'll want to keep the flounder alive as long as possible. After you get 3 keys, lose the flounder and head to the right. Jump out of the water and grab the 4th key. Get back in the water, get a crab, and dig down to find another key. Lose the crab, head to the right until you reach the end of the level. Stage 6, Nemo's House, has 7 keys and might test your patience for a bit until you figure out what's going on. The first key is directly above you, but it's in a cave you can't reach without the frog, so get the frog. Once you get the key, you're going to need 2 other animals, the bee and the mouse. To get to the bee, head to the right and drop down into a cave. You'll have to avoid a couple of bees in there, then drop down again. In here, you'll face off against the wonders of the monkeys balancing on dinner plates. I don't really understand it, but in a game where you jump into the mouth of a bee to take over its body, I don't question it either. Head down through the gap. From here, you need to get to the lizard, who's all the way down and to the right past some annoying steel beams. Once you've got the lizard, head over to the left, climb up the wall, grab a 1-up and a key, then down and around to get to the bee. Once you have the bee, you'll need to fly around the level, collecting several keys that are located in the air, mostly to the left side of the map. If you fly all the way up, you'll be in a hallway with bees and turtles attacking you. There are 2 exits here, on the right and the far left. Head up the one on the right to get another key, then head to the one on the far left. This is where you'll be able to get the mouse with the mallet. I still don't get it. Use the mouse to break through the wall that you couldn't break through before, fall down, and then get the bee again. Fly around to collect the remaining keys, and then exit the level. This will take you to the next level, the Cloud Ruins. It's here that you'll put everything you've learned in the previous levels to the test. You have to jump, fly, and outrun the screen in order to stay alive. There's no real trick to this level, so I can't exactly explain how to beat it. I mean, the keys are all in easy-to-reach places. This is more of a problem of platforming rather than figuring out where you need to go. I can say this much about the level. Don't jump too early when you come up to the clouds, otherwise the screen starts to scroll up, and you're screwed. Stage 7, Topsy Turvy, is essentially Nemo's house just turned upside down. Getting through this level is actually really easy, especially compared to the last few. All you need to do is head to the right and occasionally use the frog or bee to get to the keys. Really, you shouldn't have too many problems here. Stage 8, Nightmare Land. You know the wand thing Nemo's been carrying around for the entire game? Well, now you get to use it, and use it you will. There are no keys to collect in Nightmare Land, but there are some ridiculously difficult bosses you need to get through. Believe me, you're gonna die. A lot. Again. The first boss of Nightmare Land is Kingpin, a giant penguin. He shoots out bubbles, gives birth to smaller attack penguins, and flies around the room by spinning in a circle really fast. This guy can be really easy if you take your time. Start off by charging up your wand to full power. As soon as he lands, attack him, then quickly avoid the bubbles, and attack the mini penguins with your wand, or just avoid them. After the first round of attacks, you have to wait to charge up your wand because the penguin likes to choose a different side of the map than the one you're facing. So you're only going to be able to attack him with a half-charged wand before having to avoid bubbles and penguins. After a little bit of trial and error, you'll get his pattern down and pwn the penguin. The second boss is some kind of flying mantis, but he'll attack you with fire. A flying mantis that attacks you with fire, yeah. Anyway, when he shoots, stand at the opposite end of his attack, the opposite side of the screen, and attack with your wand. After a while, he'll stop shooting at you and go into dive mode. This is where things get tricky. You'll need to put your reflexes to the test because this guy is fast. When he pops on screen, run or jump away from him as fast as you can, trying not to get hit. He'll do this upwards of 5 or 6 times before he goes back to trying to hit you with his fire. Float like a butterfly and sting like a bee long enough, and you'll make your way up to the Nightmare Lord. This guy's such a pushover. All he does is move back and forth on the screen while spitting a red jelly at you, and occasionally firing lasers your way. He also looks pretty stupid too. Just avoid the lasers, kill the floating red orb thing, and attack him when you can. The only real challenge is timing your wand charging to hit him in the face before he fires lasers at you. Still, it's not that much of a challenge, and you should be able to take him down. You know, end bosses like this really disappoint me. I mean, they're the last thing between you and the end credits. They're supposed to be difficult. Meanwhile, their underlings are more difficult than they are. But what if there was a game that was really difficult? I mean, super difficult. And it was nothing but bosses. Sure, they had a little stage in between, but really, it was all end bosses. That'd be a hell of a game for Until We Win, wouldn't it? Yeah, it would. Too bad you're a giant chicken in the game.